Hi everyone, and thanks for coming to this talk. As was mentioned, my name is Amal Nanavati, and I will be presenting research done jointly with Bernardine and Aaron Steinfeld. The characters you see on the screen are Ellie, the hearing-impaired elephant, which are the mascot of our games. This study presents the results from a 2-year deployment of speech therapy games that were developed with and for a school for the deaf in India. The World Health Organization's 2018 Deafness Fact Sheet states that the majority of people with disabling hearing loss live in low and middle income countries. Further, only 3% of developing countries' hearing aid needs are met. Within India specifically, only 0.5% of deaf and hard of hearing students attend a school prepared to meet their needs. Further, there are multiple stigmas surrounding deafness in India. These include the idea that people are deaf are also dumb, which the community uses to mean mute. Further, there are large regional variations in sign language and a lack of awareness about sign language in general. Speech therapy in India is also both scarce and expensive. As a result, students who are deaf lack the resources and opportunities to learn verbal communication, even though, according to our partner school, it is a prerequisite to leading an independent life in India. This paper and presentation focuses on fieldwork we conducted in 2017 at the Matru Center for the Deaf in Bengaluru, India. During this fieldwork, we investigated how the community was using Speak Up, a suite of voice-powered games we had developed in prior work. We used insights from the ethnographic fieldwork to iteratively improve upon Speak Up. This 2017 fieldwork builds on years of prior work by our research group. In 2013 and 2015, we conducted needs assessments. These revealed that teachers had difficulties motivating and engaging students during speech class. To address this, our 2015 team developed Speak Up, a suite of voice-powered computer games intended to help students understand and visualize their voices. Before that, our research group has been working with this community partner since 2006 on projects related to visual impairments. As I had mentioned, this paper and presentation focus on the results from our 2017 fieldwork. In this project, we seek to answer 3 questions. First, how does a long-term deployment of technology shape individual and group dynamics within an underserved community? Second, how does a community's existing practices and expectations alter their usage of the technology? And third, how can we incorporate knowledge of this interplay into the technology development process? Our research builds upon past work. Computer tools for speech therapy have been around since at least the 1970s. However, many of these tools require either sophisticated sensors and algorithms, which are infeasible to implement in developing communities, or must be used with trained speech therapists. There have also been works that study community uses of technology and how technology influences communities. Halalua and colleagues found that games to teach math in Sri Lanka led teachers to be more collaborative and gave rise to student power differentials. Lazem and Jad found that students in Egypt developed novel metacognitive strategies to improve their performance at multiplication games. Our research extends the state of the science into long-term deployments, especially in developing countries. Our community partner was the Matru Educational Trust for the Blind. The trust runs multiple nonprofit residential schools for children who are blind, deaf, and differently abled, which is a term used by the community. Our research group has been working with the trust since 2006. In this project, we worked with the Matru Center for the Deaf, which, at the time of our fieldwork, housed 1st through 6th grade students. For numerous reasons, the Matru Center has a high teacher turnover. Between our 2015 and 2017 fieldwork, only 1 teacher remained. Students at the Matru Center also have large variability in hearing capabilities, and teachers are often pressured for time. This research took place in 2 weeks in June 2017. Due to the short time period, it involved interleaved ethnographic research and technology development. The ethnographic research involved classroom observations, informal conversations, and semi-structured interviews in English. The technology development involved game modifications based on teacher requests and ethnographic findings, as well as user tests and teacher and student trainings. I will now introduce the Speak Up games. This is our prior work, done in 2015, that forms the backdrop of our current study. Speak Up is a suite of computer games that respond to student vocalization, which was developed because teachers wanted an aid to engage and motivate students during speech class. In this video, you will see an example of a student playing a Speak Up game, the Rickshaw game, in 2015. Speak Up consisted of 10 games. These games fell into 3 categories: beginner skills, free play, and games. There were also 4 aspects of speech therapy put into the games in 2015. These included volume modulation, where students try to variate their volume, continuous vocalizations, where students try to speak continuously, timed vocalizations, where students try to speak at particular intervals, and pitch modulation, where students try to variate their pitch. Many of the upcoming findings relate to the game Picture That. Picture That was intended to focus on continuous vocalizations, where as a student vocalizes, a picture of a particular object gradually becomes more opaque. I will now discuss findings from our 2017 follow-up fieldwork. Importantly, between 2015 and 2017, our usage logs indicate that Speak Up was used about once every 2 to 4 weeks. The paper presents numerous ethnographic findings and subsequent enhancements we made to the games. In this presentation, I focus on a subset of these results. I invite you to read the paper to learn more about our other findings and enhancements. Upon arriving at the school in 2017, we discovered a difference in the categorization between how we viewed the games and how teachers viewed the games. As mentioned, this was our picture of the games, divided into 3 groups of games and focusing on 4 aspects of voice. However, this was teachers' views of the games, divided into 2 categories, for students who can try to speak and for students who can't speak. To be clear, these were words used by the teachers. So, what were these groups? Both groups had great variability. Students who can't speak ranged from students who could make simple vowel sounds to students who could make the correct sounds in the word, make vocalizations to match the cadence of a word, but have trouble in integrating those 2 together. On the other hand, students who can try to speak range from students who could make multisyllable sounds that could be understood when combined with the context of the interaction, to students who could speak full sentences but found it hard to enunciate. This categorization came about due to pressures on teachers' times, the fact that students needed verbal communication when they left the school, and the variability in students' hearing capabilities. Therefore, teachers began focusing on locally practical speech. For students who can try to speak, this involved teaching them to say whole words. For students who can't speak, this consisted of teaching them loud and soft sounds combined with lip reading instruction. Teachers refocused the goals of Speak Up to align with their speech therapy goals. For example, in the next video, you will see a teacher using Picture That, a game that we had intended to focus on continuous vocalization to teach a student to say the word monkey.
Monkey.
In addition to categorization differences, we also found that the games influenced classroom power dynamics. Within teacher-student power dynamics, students often knew how to operate the computers better than their teachers, partly due to the high teacher turnover. Therefore, students often corrected teachers as they were operating the games and about to press a wrong button. However, this challenged teachers' traditional authority in the classroom, where they're supposed to be the most knowledgeable person. After multiple corrections by the students, we frequently observed teachers ceding control of the games to students by letting them both play and decide which games to play all by themselves. However, to us, this seemed like technology disempowering the teachers, leaving them with a feeling of less control in their classroom. This was certainly not our goal, especially since teachers had initially wanted Speak Up to use as a classroom aid. Therefore, we began thinking of ways to draw the teachers back into the interaction between the students and the computers. We knew that teachers wanted more games that allowed students to practice saying whole words. They also wanted the computers to recognize, give feedback to, and grade student pronunciation. And as mentioned, teachers often ceded control of the computers to their students. As a result, we decided to create an explicit teacher role in games like Picture That. We decided to make teachers in charge of certifying whether students were pronouncing a word correctly by pressing the R key for right, or wrong by pressing the W key. This brought the teachers into the loop by utilizing their local expertise in speech therapy and pedagogy. The teachers could understand what students were saying and what constituted improvements for particular students way better than a computer ever could. Teachers could also dynamically adjust what each student had to say or do in order to be marked right, effectively modifying the difficulty of the games. In the next video, you'll see a teacher using this R or W feature to motivate a student to keep practicing to say the word class. As you saw, the teacher used the R or W feature to motivate the student. The student kept trying to get the word right and was disappointed when he got it wrong. Importantly, although we intended this change to draw teachers into the interaction between students and the computer, the results were very teacher dependent. Lastly, note that the teacher was focusing on just one student during this activity, whereas other students were still engaged by watching the computer. This will be important in the next section. In addition to influencing classroom power dynamics, we found that the games changed classroom behavior in speech class. In 2015, teachers would go around the room one by one, focusing their speech instruction on one student while others often got distracted or bored. The next video illustrates this. In our needs assessment in 2015, teachers mentioned that they wanted a tool that could engage all students during speech class. This was a driving motivation in creating Speak Up. In 2017, when we returned, we observed a very different classroom dynamic in speech classes in which the computer was used. There was an ebb and flow between a collective usage of the games and an individual usage of the games. The previous video of a teacher using the R or W feature illustrated an example of the individual usage of the games, where the teacher focused on an individual while the other students still remained engaged by following along the activity. The next video illustrates a collective usage of the games.
Orange. Orange.
Importantly, this ebb and flow between collective and individual usage mimicked students' behaviors in other classes, such as their sign language class. Therefore, the games contributed to shifting the classroom behavior in speech class away from a one-on-one interaction which teachers did not like towards one that mimicked the interactions in other classes. Between the 2015 and 2017 fieldwork, we also noticed changes to teachers' and students' familiarity with technology. In 2017, both teachers and students were much more familiar with operating a computer than in 2015. Teachers had also developed creative, unintended usages of the games, such as using PictureDat to teach students to say whole words. Further, teachers had developed ideas for new games they wanted to be added to Speak Up, a stark contrast to 2015 when teachers had little idea of how computers could be used in their speech class. These observations led us to explicitly focus on capacity building in our game development. We leveraged and extended teachers' increased computer capabilities by bringing in the keyboard as an interaction modality in games like PictureDat. That would have not been possible in 2015 when teachers were unfamiliar with computers. This led us to reflect upon the importance of capacity building in our research methodology. If in every cycle of the iterative development process, we could assess the community's computer capabilities and modify the games to leverage and extend those capabilities, we could build greater and greater capacity in the community throughout the entire research process. As part of this goal, we brought a simple embodied agent to the community. Our goal was to investigate ways in which it could extend Speak Up and demonstrate to teachers and students further capabilities of computers, which would hopefully seed future ideas about how technology could be used in their speech class. Therefore, we modified a remote-controlled car to be Arduino-controlled, where the Arduino receives commands from a computer and then sends wireless signals to the car. We used this to develop two games, a basic game where arrow keys control car direction and student voice controls the motion, and a stop-and-go game where students have to answer a question correctly in order to move the car. The next video shows a teacher using the basic game. Note the way the teacher controls the car as well as what other students are doing. As you saw, the teacher used the car's motion as a reward mechanism, only pressing the arrow keys to move the car when the students said what they wanted. The other students remained engaged by following the car. In fact, in younger grade levels, students would physically chase after the car, creating obstacles for it or moving it when it got stuck. Therefore, the embodied agent separated the foci of engagement from the foci of learning, allowing teachers to focus on one student who was standing near the computer, while the other students still remained engaged in the classroom activity, as opposed to getting bored and distracting each other. There was also an age component to the games. Younger students were more excited by it, and as students got older, the car was less effective at engaging them. This reveals a potential for embodied agents to be effective extensions to Speak Up, although it requires further investigation. As I had mentioned, we started this research project with 3 questions. Our findings on classroom power dynamics and changes in classroom behavior shed light on the first by illustrating how the 2-year deployment of Speak Up influenced teacher-student power dynamics, as well as how the games shaped students' engagement and interaction levels during speech class. Our findings on categorization shed light on the second by showing how teachers' categorization of students impacted how they viewed and used the games. Finally, our enhancements that focused on incorporating teacher expertise into the games and using embodied agents revealed ways to integrate these ethnographic findings into the technology development process. Thank you for listening, and I'd be happy to take questions now. Thank you.